Right folks, welcome to X News 3. If you want to stay ahead of the curve and never miss a beat on the world's biggest stories, go ahead and follow us now. Seriously, it means a lot. Support us by subscribing, liking and dropping a comment below. It helps keep us going and you'll get the latest updates as soon as they drop. Stick with us for this story and all the ones yet to come. And don't forget, subscribe, like and comment. Thanks for tuning in to X News 3. On July 3rd, 2025, a swarm of 21 Iranian suicide drones, 10 of them advanced Shahid 238s, breached US airspace over Dhafra Air Base in the UAE. They went undetected for 12 crucial seconds. Then, the first strike hit. Fuel tank 03 Bravo was struck, igniting a massive fireball that destroyed 2 M1 Abrams tanks, vaporized over 1.6 million barrels of jet fuel, and caused more than $890 million in damages. Less than 48 hours later, the United States hit back hard. A total of 28 Tomahawk cruise missiles were launched from the USS Curtis Wilbur and a Virginia-class submarine, followed by 12 FA-18 Echo Super Hornets from the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. Their target, Shahid Karimi Air Base in Iran, one of the core hubs of Iran's drone warfare program. But beneath the smoke and craters, a deeper and more dangerous game is unfolding. Hidden alliances are shifting, and what comes next is something no one is ready to talk about. The question now, can Iran withstand this level of firepower? At exactly 4:15 a.m. on July 3rd, 2025, the skies over Dhafra Air Base lit up, not from sirens, but from fire. A wave of Iranian drones flew over the base in the dark of night. But they weren't aiming for military hardware. They were targeting something far more economically vital, a strategic US-protected oil storage facility holding over 1.6 million barrels of refined JP-8 jet fuel. Within minutes, the American base was reeling from what many now call the boldest Iranian drone strike since the Strait of Hormuz crisis. Of the 21 drones, 10 were the newly developed Shahid 238s, fitted with AI-based evasion software and short-range radar stealth coding. This tech allowed them to vanish from US tracking systems for up to 12 seconds, long enough to slip through the base's first line of defense. Iran's military planners timed the strike with precision, minimal personnel rotations, reduced radar sensitivity due to thermal distortion, and fuel tankers parked outside during night operations, all creating a recipe for disaster. And disaster struck. At 4:18 a.m., a Shahid 238 hit fuel tank 03 Bravo directly, a tank holding 312,000 barrels. The resulting fireball shot over 300 feet into the air. Nearby, armoured fuel trucks exploded, and the blast disabled 2 idling M1A2 Abrams tanks 80 yards from the impact zone. The fire's core reached temperatures of nearly 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit, melting the steel supports around it and sending shockwaves through every command tent on the base. Early reports said 5 US personnel were injured, including 2 pilots with minor burns. It took over 3 hours for fire crews to contain the blaze. By then, more than $890 million in infrastructure and fuel had either been destroyed or rendered useless. For the Pentagon, this wasn't just a physical blow, it was a psychological one. By 6:00 a.m., all US Central Command forces in the region were put on high alert. An emergency video call took place between the Secretary of Defense, the CENTCOM commander, and the National Security Council. Drone and satellite footage started circulating through classified intelligence channels, footage of the fireball, twisted tank remains, and unmistakable signs of Iranian drone tech. But what shocked many even more than the fire was that no warning had been issued and no US interceptors had been launched in time. Iran didn't just hit the US, they caught it completely off guard. This wasn't symbolic. It was a calculated attack on America's fuel logistics, an act of war demanding a swift and serious response. And that response was already in motion. Just 90 minutes after the strike, US recon pinpointed the source, Shahid Karimi Air Base in Yazd province, Iran. This was a top-tier drone facility run by Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, located about 790 miles from Dhafra. High-altitude surveillance and RC-135 signal data revealed a sophisticated launch. The Shahed 238 drones had used encrypted burst signals from civilian trucks to avoid jamming and cut detection rates by over 65%. The NSA's AI system, Kraken 2, broke the signal pattern, proving deliberate state-level coordination. New satellite images showed expanded bunkers, reinforced hangars, and a suspected AI-run control tower. Iran's drone warfare infrastructure was clearly more advanced than previously thought. This wasn't terrorism. It was a calculated military strike. By noon, oil prices had spiked 7.8%, causing global concern. NATO issued a rare joint warning, and US Central Command raised alert levels. A Pentagon official put it bluntly. This wasn't a message, it was a declaration. The clock is ticking. America will respond. It's only a matter of time. The decision came at 2 o'clock in the morning on July 5, 2025. In a secure command center beneath the Pentagon, the go-ahead was given for Operation Desert Flash. No warnings, no press briefings. The response would speak for itself, with fire and fury. At 2:30 a.m. in the Arabian Sea, the USS Virginia submarine and USS Curtis Wilbur destroyer launched 28 Block 5 Tomahawk cruise missiles. Each missile traveled at nearly 550 miles per hour, carrying a 1,000-pound warhead aimed straight at Shahid Karimi Air Base, the very hub of the drone fleet that had humiliated US Central Command just 2 days earlier. At the same time, the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, stationed 96 nautical miles from the Strait of Hormuz, launched Strike Package Alpha. From its deck, 12 FA-18E Super Hornets took to the skies, accompanied by 4 EA-18G Growlers for radar jamming and air defense suppression. Within 22 minutes, the strike group entered Iranian airspace under a thick blanket of electronic interference. The scene over Shahid Karimi was devastating. The Tomahawks hit first. The base's main radar array exploded in a firestorm, followed by pinpoint strikes on 6 fuel bunkers, 3 drone launch pads, and a command node believed to house cyber operations. Secondary explosions lit up the complex as fuel and munitions ignited, with flames visible from 23 miles away. Moments later, the Super Hornets arrived like thunder. They dropped precision-guided GBU-32 JDAM bombs, collapsing 2 fortified drone hangars and destroying over a dozen Shahed drones before they could be moved. The Growlers fired anti-radiation missiles that crippled Iran's Khordad-15 air defense systems, leaving the base blind and defenseless. The coordination was flawless, the destruction total. Iran's Revolutionary Guard communications went silent. State media confirmed 14 deaths, including 2 senior drone engineers. About 70% of the base's operational infrastructure was disabled. Later, US satellites captured images of IRGC trucks frantically trying to haul out damaged drone parts under thick black smoke. But beyond the wreckage, the strike carried a clear message. The US knows where the threats come from and can eliminate them at will. For American commanders, it was partial redemption. For Iran, a devastating loss. Shahid Karimi had taken years to build. It was reduced to scorched concrete and burning wreckage in just under 17 minutes. On board the Eisenhower, a calm voice echoed through the comms channel. Target neutralized. Return to carrier. 0 casualties. America had answered fire with fire, but the echo of that fiery storm had only just begun. Just 12 hours after Shahid Karimi was turned to rubble, Tehran vowed revenge. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon on July 5th, Iran launched a surprise counterattack. 5 medium-range Fateh 110 ballistic missiles, each with a range of 185 miles and 1,500-pound warheads. Their destination was unmistakable. Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the nerve center of US air operations in the Middle East. The attack unfolded with terrifying speed. In just 6 minutes, the missiles crossed the Gulf, triggering intense defensive action. The first line, Patriot PAC-3 batteries, locked onto the incoming warheads, while the base's CRAM phalanx systems fired 4,500 tungsten rounds per minute. 2 missiles were intercepted in mid-air, exploding into fireballs over the desert. A third was destroyed at 14,000 feet by an SM-6 missile from the nearby USS Carney, which had been on high alert. But 2 Fateh 110s slipped through. One hit an empty section of the runway, sending a shockwave that shattered 400 feet of perimeter fencing. The second struck a fuel depot, causing a massive explosion that injured 7 US contractors and temporarily shut down 2 hangars used for F-15 maintenance. Fire crews battled for hours to contain the blaze, which spread over 1,800 meters and threatened a nearby ammo storage area. The message from Tehran was loud and clear: Iran won't stay silent. As smoke rose over Al Udeid, the US began urgent coordination with regional allies. Israel raised its air defense alert to level 2, activated Iron Dome batteries near Al Maktoum International Airport, and moved F-35I jets to forward positions. Saudi Arabia opened its airspace. Tensions explode in the Gulf after US retaliation. With Iranian drone bases destroyed, American aircraft now had unrestricted freedom to carry out follow-up missions. In the Gulf of Oman, 2 British Type 45 destroyers switched from patrol duty to full combat readiness, deploying Sea Viper missiles to strengthen air defense systems. The threat of escalation was now real. Military analysts warned that one misstep could ignite the entire region and pull in multiple governments. Overnight, oil tankers were rerouted, and global crude prices jumped above $110 a barrel, the highest since 2022. In New York, the UN Security Council held an emergency session. Russia and China condemned the US strike on Shahid Karimi Air Base, accusing Washington of destabilizing the Gulf. Meanwhile, American diplomats insisted the counterstrike was purely defensive, a necessary move to neutralize an imminent threat. But inside CENTCOM's war room, the tone was far from diplomatic. Intelligence reports showed that Iran's missile brigades in Bushehr and Bandar Abbas were mobilizing, possibly preparing for another wave of ballistic missile attacks. As the sun set over the Gulf, a senior US commander was overheard saying, "If they fire again, we'll bring the fight to their doorstep." While smoke still hung over the region and oil markets remained in turmoil, Washington released a shocking after-action report. Shahid Karimi Air Base had lost 100% of its launch capability. Infrared satellite imagery showed no drone movement, no radar emissions, and no heat signatures from generators. What was once a symbol of Iran's drone dominance was now nothing but a cratered wasteland. Quietly, Iran's Revolutionary Guard began relocating all remaining drone production assets to a newly fortified underground facility near Troya. The move was expected to cause logistical delays of 4 to 6 weeks. NSA intercepted communications revealed panic engineers working in non-stop shifts, rerouted supply lines, and even rumors of disciplinary actions against commanders who failed to predict the US strike. But the US wasn't content with a one-time hit. As part of Operation Shielded Gulf, CENTCOM began the largest military reorganization in the region since 2003. A second aircraft carrier, the USS Theodore Roosevelt, entered the Gulf of Oman, escorted by a full strike group of 8 ships, including 2 Aegis destroyers and 3 logistics support vessels. At the same time, THAAD missile defense batteries were deployed to the UAE and Bahrain, boosting high-altitude defense capabilities. More B-1B Lancer bombers were flown in from Diego Garcia, providing constant air-based deterrence in 6-hour rotations. The costs were enormous, but deemed necessary. The Department of Defense allocated $3.2 billion in emergency logistics reinforcements just to protect energy infrastructure. Cyber Command raised its alert level and rolled out quantum shield protocols across all CENTCOM bases to guard against retaliatory cyber attacks, which had already spiked 300% within 48 hours. But beyond the missiles and the malware, the strike had sent a loud and clear message. American logistics are not an easy target. Back home, the event dominated the news. Images of the burning depot and returning fighter jets triggered a wave of patriotism. Overnight, public support for military action surged by 19 points among Americans over 55. Flags flew higher. Eyes stayed on the skies. As the Eisenhower quietly sailed toward the horizon, its radar scanned the dark seas, watching for whatever might come next. One truth echoed across every combat deck, command tent and war room. This wasn't the end, it was just a warning. The Gulf may have calmed for now, but silence doesn't mean stability. In just 4 days, the world had witnessed a full-blown military escalation. Iran's stealth drone attack, the US's precision response, ballistic missiles in the air, and rapid deployments of air and naval power on both sides. This wasn't just a clash of bombs and blood, it was a war of capabilities, willpower and messaging. Iran's drone network was crippled, but not erased. US oil infrastructure took a hit, but proved it wasn't invulnerable. Shahid Karimi might lie in ruins, but the lessons from this strike burn bright in the minds of defense planners from Washington to Tel Aviv, Riyadh to Moscow. This confrontation didn't just shift military posture, it redrew strategic lines in the sand. It exposed the limits of deterrence, the evolution of drone warfare, and the high cost of underestimating asymmetric threats in the 21st century. Settings: use a male voice with a New Yorker accent for speaker 4, don't add